What's up, Unlocking Your Inner Strength listeners? How would you like to know how to banish the myth of multitasking from your brain forever? Well, I got good news for you. I've put together a special report showing you exactly how to do this. Normally it's $45, but since you're a loyal listener of the show, you can get it for only $10 at unlockingyourinnerstrength.com/time.
You're listening to The Inner Strength Show. If you want to step into your greatness, you've come to the right place. Here is your host, the human strength expert, Kyle Newell.
Hey everybody, it's Kyle, back at you once again with episode number 60 of Unlocking Your Inner Strength and Newell Strength Production. And I have an interesting show planned for you today. It's about conspiracy theories. Now, as you may or may not know, I am a huge fan of the supernatural. And although I'm not going to be talking to you about Bigfoot or aliens, although I just watched a fascinating documentary on aliens and what the government knows and what they don't know and whatnot, I'm not going to talk to you about that stuff today. But I am going to talk to you about myths and conspiracies, quote unquote, of fitness and health, because I think it's very important that people become aware of these things so they can take control of their own lives and their own health and the direction and trajectory of where they're heading. I've talked a lot in the past about Charles Poliquin. Charles is a mad scientist. When I first went to one of his courses, one of the things he told us was that the norms for your blood work that the doctors give you and that the labs give you, those are for Homer Simpson. What I mean by that is that those labs, those norms are designed for your average couch potato that is not highly motivated, that's content to just go to their 9-to-5 job, come home, sit on the couch, and do it again the next day. Those norms for your blood work are not for the people that want to function at the highest levels of life, mentally and physically and emotionally. So that is one of the first conspiracies of the medical field I would like to talk about is blood work. Now, I won't go too deep into it, but if you're interested, we can do a whole show on blood work and lab readings. But if you look at things like vitamin D 25 hydroxy is what it would look like on your lab report. Such a crucial nutrient, yet if you live above Atlanta, Georgia, above that, that line of longitude, you're going to be extremely deficient in vitamin D. Now, vitamin D is basically a prohormone. There's a vitamin D3 receptor on every single cell of the body, okay? D3 is one of the best things that we can take for our immune systems. Now, D3, I've seen numbers as low as 9, or I think I even saw 4 once. You want to be above 120, okay, when you look at the units and how it's measured. Now, most doctors will say, you got to watch for vitamin D saturation or vitamin D poisoning. Vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, meaning, yes, you can theoretically have too much of it, but you're not going to. I've never seen that actually happen. So you want to be above 120. Now, the way you take this, most doctors will, if they're even good at all, will say, look, you're low in vitamin D. Why don't you take 1,000 IUs or 2,000 IUs a couple times a week? Well, that's not going to get anything done. So the way we dose it at Newell Strength is you take 50,000 IUs twice per week and you adjust as needed based on your blood work, successive blood work. Now, I've seen numbers climb dramatically when people do this. So it's not that doctors don't know that stuff. It's just they're not taught that stuff. They don't have time to know all about supplements and nutrition. So that's just one example of blood work. While I'm on that topic, let's talk a little bit about cholesterol. I'm a firm believer that the government and big pharma companies are hand in hand with not wanting people to have superior health. If people had superior health, the big pharmaceutical companies many of them would take a huge hit financially. You got to understand the way the medical establishment and the government are set up. They've been created and modeled so that people need them. So they need assistance from them. So cholesterol, I've written a paper on this, and actually it was funny because I tried to make it a boosted article on Facebook, and Facebook wouldn't allow that. Because again, all these multi-billion-dollar corporations, they're tied hand in hand, a lot of them. And they want to control what messages you're hearing. So let's get back to cholesterol, though. Cholesterol, Ansel Keys was the guy that discovered cholesterol, made this popular. I shouldn't say discovered cholesterol, but he did an experiment where he was feeding rabbits cholesterol and wanted to measure what happened to their blood work. Now, first of all, rabbits don't eat cholesterol. They're vegetarians. So right off the bat, this should have been thrown out, this study. Second thing, the cholesterol came in for the test, like a tube, like a toothpaste tube. That's what it looked like. Now, he left the cap off overnight, which oxidized the cholesterol. So again, studies should be aborted if it wasn't already, because he was working on rabbits with cholesterol, which is retarded. It should have been aborted at that point. It wasn't. Cholesterol is the main precursor in the body for sex hormone production, testosterone, estrogen, other things that assist our functioning. Now, when you look at cholesterol, a lot of people will bring me their blood work and say, my cholesterol is high. What should I do? Yeah, your cholesterol might be high, but that could be a very good thing. The only thing that I look at with cholesterol, my own included and my family members, is the VLDL, the very low density lipoproteins. And I'll explain that in a second. And then I look at a ratio, triglycerides to HDL. So let's go back to the VLDL. It's a particle size, basically, we're looking at. If you had a tennis net and you were throwing beach balls at the tennis net, they're not going to get through, correct? Correct. Now, most cholesterol are big, fluffy molecules, your HDL and your LDL. They're not going to penetrate your arteries, which is the tennis net. Now, VLDL are like BBs. You can throw them at the tennis net all day, and they'll get through there and gum up and stick to the arterial wall. Cause buildup and blockage. That's what you have to watch for. But most doctors and labs say cholesterol's high, put them on medication. Now, when you go on cholesterol medication, you're going to destroy your brain, okay? Your brain runs off of a large part of it of cholesterol, needs it to function at high efficiency. So most people will notice when they go on cholesterol medication that their short-term memory starts to go. And even sometimes long-term memory, they'll get extreme muscle pain. Their sex drive will go down. Testosterone levels will go down. What's up, Unlocking Your Inner Strength listeners? How would you like to know how to banish the myth of multitasking from your brain forever? Well, I got good news for you. I've put together a special report showing you exactly how to do this. Normally it's $45, but since you're a loyal listener of the show, you can get it for only $10 at unlockingyourinnerstrength.com/time. Cholesterol medication has not been proven to work in a majority of cases. Yes, if you read a study by a pharmaceutical company, then of course they're going to try to slant it that you need this stuff. You don't need this stuff. Cholesterol is not bad. I'm all about having high cholesterol, as crazy as that sounds. It's one of the best things you can do for your health. Now, you got to keep an eye on the VLDL. And you also want to look at triglycerides, right? So triglycerides, a lot of times, they'll say too much fat in your diet. Get it lower. Well, foods that contain fat, good saturated fats, are the ones that contain cholesterol. So triglycerides are not caused by eating too much fat. They're caused by, it's an insulin issue, right? So when we take in too many refined carbohydrates and combine it with fat, that's when we have a triglyceride issue. It's not just by eating fats. You're seeing a huge rise in fatty liver disease in non-alcoholics because of this, because of rising insulin levels. Okay, insulin will also cause water retention. Insulin will cause blood pressure to be higher. Not sodium, not salt. That's a whole nother thing. So when you take your the way you can determine your heart risk factor is take your triglyceride number to your HDL number and figure out the ratio. And you want that to be 2 or 3 to 1 and below that. Okay, I actually saw one recently that was 22 to 1. And I said, dude, you are at high risk. And I knew it was visceral fat from the in-body machine we use of heart disease. Get this shit under control fast. And I knew that because I looked at triglyceride ratio to HDL. Again, most doctors aren't going to tell you that. They're not taught that. But the knowledge is out there if you want to learn this stuff. So something to keep in mind there. Now, a couple more things. I'm also convinced with cholesterol, kind of goes on the same lines, that you have these nerds in government and pharmaceutical, these nerds that were picked on maybe. And I don't believe in picking on people, but they were dweebs. They weren't the jocks. They weren't the big, strong people, men and women. And thus, they are totally against testosterone usage. It's immoral. It's dangerous. It's going to kill you. No, it isn't any of those things. Another stupid, asinine thing that's put out there over and over and over again. But they don't want these people walking around that are going to be big and strong and function at a higher capacity with their brain. They want to keep people lower than them. Okay, they want to suppress these people that could rise up. And I believe it's like a revenge of the nerds, some of these people in government and pharmaceutical. Anyhow, 2 more conspiracies before I wrap it up. Diet. We've talked about this before. I'm a big fan of intermittent fasting. When you look at it, breakfast is one of the biggest myths. Breakfast really became popularized in the past century, right? For people that were sickly and had trouble keeping on weight. The breakfast industry is $1 trillion industry, and I love breakfast food. So I'm not saying breakfast food, although a lot of breakfast food is not the healthiest. If you want to stay fat, keep eating cereal. Anyhow, when you look at the hormones, you cannot argue this fact. You cannot argue this. Cortisol spikes when we wake up. It actually is what wakes us up. It's an alertness hormone. When we eat insulin, cortisol and insulin have this thing called a fishing effect. When we eat breakfast, insulin rises, cortisol comes back down. Okay? When insulin's high, fat loss cannot happen. Insulin is not a hormone that we want at chronically high levels in our body. Too many bad things can happen when insulin is chronically high. So breakfast, we want to keep cortisol high. Growth hormone's going to spike. It's going to change body composition. It's going to help brain function. Now, most people eat a typical breakfast and they say, I get hungry or tired shortly thereafter. Yeah, it's because you're going against what's hormonally trying to happen with your body. So for the breakfast industry to try to say that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, you can't look at the hormones and tell me that with a straight face. You can't if you know anything about science or health. That's another conspiracy. And it all ties together. You see how it's almost like our society is designed to make people sickly and fat and have low sex hormone levels. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. The last thing I want to talk about is cardio. Now, cardio, as most people know it, is sitting on the elliptical or the treadmill, and the doctor will say, and the guy with super high triglyceride to HDL ratio that I was just telling you about, like 22-1, was saying, my doctor said I should do more cardio, and this will help. And I said, your doctor doesn't know what they're talking about, because cardio is anything that works the cardiovascular system. Your muscular system drives the cardiovascular system. So the more muscle you work, the more cardio output you get. You follow me? So anything that drives the cardiovascular system is cardio. It doesn't have to be slow, long distance stuff. Now, if you're going to do slow, long distance, go for a walk, because that lowers cortisol levels and gives you clarity of mind. And that's how I recommend most people start out if they haven't been doing anything, but it's not for fat loss. So cardio for fat loss became popularized in the late 70s, I believe, when cardio equipment started becoming all the rage. And who was funding all these studies? It was the cardio equipment companies. You always got to follow the dollar. I always say follow the dollar. Where did the studies come from? Do your own research. But cardio, as you know it, is not effective at fat loss. It makes you more efficient at utilizing body fat. Sounds good on the surface, but if your car was more efficient at utilizing fuel, it would use less of it, not more of it. Now, if we want fat loss, we want to have a big gas-guzzling engine. We want to use more fuel. We want to hit the weights head to toe, peripheral heart action. And that is how you're going to change your body. And last thing I'll tell you is we have a female at the gym. She's done all these diets, all these things, never weight trained in her life. Cardio, queen. She's been with us now, let me think here, 3 months. Lost 30 pounds already. Feels phenomenal. Got her changing what she's eating, and she's hitting the weights. No cardio. So it works. Anyhow, those are my conspiracies with fitness. conspiracy theories, we'll call it, and spread the word because people need to know this stuff. And if you haven't already left a review on iTunes, please do so. That helps me out greatly, helps out Newell Strength greatly, helps out unlocking your inner strength greatly. And share this with a friend. And I will be back with episode number 61 about mindset next week. Peace.
You've been listening to The Inner Strength Show. If you enjoyed the show, remember to subscribe, rate, and review us in iTunes.